Hey, Joe Phillips here with Central Park Scoop, Focus Real Estate. I have left the neighborhood today. I'm about 15 minutes away. I came over to visit Arlan, the founder of We Don't Waste. It's an organization all about trying to address the food insecurity issue that we have right here in our local communities. So Arlan, give us an overview of what you do here.
So We Don't Waste, I founded back in 2008 when, if you recall, there was a recession going on, and having volunteered at a number of nonprofits throughout the city, I found that they were having a lot of difficulty in providing food to their constituents and their clients. And as a foodie, my wife and I are out quite often, we're out quite often, and I began asking people in the restaurant industry, what do you do with the food that's left over at the end of the night? And they said, we have to throw it away because we just don't know where to take it. And after a while I said, would you donate that food? And they said, of course we would. So I then went back to some of the agencies that I knew that were providing food to their clients, and I said, would you take this food if it was donated?
Yep.
They said, absolutely. So that started the process, and in September of 2009, after I put together a plan on how to do that and got some assistance with how to track the food and everything, I started out with a Volvo station wagon, put the seats down, got a tarp, and start calling on caterers, because caterers invariably have a lot of food at the end of the night when they do events. And you know, if they're going to do an event for 250 people, they don't want to get caught short.
Yeah.
So they'll overproduce to 275 perhaps. Well, invariably not everybody comes to the event. So that food that they had prepared, not plated, they would take back to their commissary. They would put it in foil pans. They would label it, put it in their coolers, and then call me, and I picked it up. Took that food and started distributing it throughout the city.
That's great. I love it. The origin story, you know, you out in your Volkswagen just doing little ones and twos kind of deals all over. What's the scale of what it's grown to now in terms of how many people you're getting food from and how many you're supplying food to?
Sure. And it was a Volvo. Let's not give...
A Volvo?
We got to give the car credit,
Volvo.
Okay? So today we have over 160, 170 food donors, all up and down the Front Range. And then we take that food and we have about 90 community-based agencies that we support directly with deliveries, and then another 130 through partner distribution. So we may take a lot of food to, say, the Arvada Food Bank. They then turn and put that out to smaller agencies within their scope. So you can see that through that, we probably reach over 300,000 people a year with food. And it keeps us busy. We started with the Volvo. We then got a van. We couldn't increase the capacity there, so we purchased a truck, a 14-foot refrigerated truck.
Yeah.
And now today we have 4 refrigerated trucks, a 10, a 14, 18, and a 26-foot refrigerated truck. We're standing now, Joe, in a facility that's just north of Furniture Row. It's an 11,500 square foot facility. And with that, of course, we're now able to acquire more food for more distribution. And the demand, unfortunately, keeps increasing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's great. You can tell how much the scale has grown. Stick around to the end of the video to kind of hear a few ways that you can still get involved. So even though it's grown really big, they still rely on a lot of volunteers and a lot of help. So I do want to give you those ways you can help in just a little bit.
Sure.
But let's back up a little bit. I know I can start to think of food insecurity as like a global problem, more of something that's across the world with a really poor country or something. But tell us some of the stats about like who's hungry right here in the Denver metro area.
So it is a worldwide problem, but it's also very, very local. It's your neighbor who doesn't have the ability, because of either the pandemic or even prior to the pandemic, that they were short on food. That if they relied on, say, food stamps or SNAP, it doesn't go very far in a month, all right?
Yeah.
So today, 1 in 3 kids in the state of Colorado are food insecure. 14% of the people in the state of Colorado are food insecure. And these are people prior to the pandemic. This is the working poor who had great jobs back in 08 and 09, lost those jobs, then came back into the workforce. But the problem was where Dad was making maybe $60,000 a year, he's now reduced to maybe $40,000. And Mom, that was making 40, is now getting 25.
Yeah.
They still have children. They still have rent to pay,
Yeah.
utilities and medical costs. They don't have enough money to supply their family with food.
Yeah.
And they may live in a food desert. Food desert being a low economic area of the city where there's not a grocery store within a mile, and they're really having difficulty. So
Yeah.
we addressed that problem back in 2019. We realized that there were about 50 food deserts within metropolitan Denver area, more particularly Denver. We worked to see where we were hitting those deserts, and we weren't hitting all of them, obviously. So we created mobile food markets. And we operated 2 beginning in 2019, one in the Glowville area, Swansea, on the north side of I-70, and one on the south side of I-70. And those were mobile food markets where we took our food, put it out in display, and people would come and they could shop. They could pick and choose exactly what they wanted
Yep.
and take it without any qualification.
Yeah.
Well, when the pandemic hit, we could no longer do those. But we quickly turned and pivoted, and those all became, both of those became, drive-through mobile food markets, where volunteers come to us. They pack back grocery bags and boxes with the food. We then take it in our trucks. We go out to these mobile food markets, and people drive through, and we provide them the same nutritious food. We now do 6 or 8 a month throughout the city.
That's great. That's great. I'm glad you guys could pivot and make it work with COVID. I'm sure that was a ton of extra work. Well, hey, I've had you holding a couple props this whole time. So explain, kind of big picture, why are we wasting, which this is one of the most shocking stats that was on your website. You know, we're wasting about 40% of the food that is produced. That's unbelievable. Why are we wasting so much of it? And like, what can you tell us about these examples you have here?
You're right, Joe. There's too much waste in the whole system. And I have 2 examples here. This is a bell pepper. And if you can look closely, you'll see that this bell pepper has 4 chambers, all right? Well, if it had 3 chambers, it was destined for the landfill, because the end users, the grocery stores and the like, they don't take that because the public wants a perfect bell pepper. The same has to do with a tomato. This tomato, as you can see, is not fully ripe yet. It has a little dent here. There's nothing wrong with this tomato. You can cut that dent out. And with this bell pepper, it may be not as firm as you would normally think.
Yeah.
But if you took this and chopped it up, and then took a 3-chamber bell pepper and
Yeah.
chopped it up, I defy you to tell me which is which.
Yeah.
Because it just doesn't change the taste or the nutritious value. So companies like this end up having to discard food until we came along. Now, all that food, if the bell pepper is supposed to be red and it has a little yellow in it, landfill. If it's
Yeah.
green and it has a little orange in it, landfill. So we take all that food. The same holds true with all the other product that we have. It's getting close to its expiration date.
Yeah.
So we get all that food and we quickly turn around and put it out to agencies so that it doesn't go to waste.
Yep.
And there's volumes of that each and every day that we access and put into the distribution to those less fortunate.
Why don't you go into the cooler, show us a few more examples of some things that you get donated from various people
Sure, be happy to, Joe.
and what you do with them. If anybody has any questions for Arlan as we're going here on the Facebook Live, toss them out. Try to get them answered. All right, into the cooler. Might sound a little different in here.
We'll just talk a little louder.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So this is 1,000 square foot of cooler space that has to be chilled and held, but it's not completely filled today, but this morning, earlier,
Yeah.
pardon me, it was filled. By the end of the day, it'll come back up, and we quickly turn the product that comes in and get it out as quick as we can. You can see we have sour.
That? Oh, okay. Okay, are we connected right now? Perfect. Okay, Wi-Fi doesn't work in the giant cooler. So we'll just talk a little more right out here.
It's where the waves cut down a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Okay, Arlan, we lost Wi-Fi in there. Tell us a few of the other examples like the Johnson & Wales and some of that stuff that you have.
Sure. So we get from Johnson & Wales, they have a pastry department, right? Well, they can't have all those kids produce all these cakes and other fresh pastries. So they call us, all that excess, we pick that up, and we turn around and put it out to the people that we're providing food. Same thing with milk. Same thing with greens, all right? We have relationships with all kinds of producers that have excess. For instance, with greens, when you go to the grocery store, you pick up a clamshell of greens and it says goodbye, and it puts out maybe 5 days.
Yeah.
They won't take product from their producers unless it has a minimum of 5 days of expiration time. So if it's shorter than that, that's where we come in.
Gotcha.
We get that. It's good food, it's nutritious food, but because of their standards, they can't put it out.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's what's great about you guys. It's not a bunch of just crap food. This is the good stuff. This is the fruits and vegetables and the milk and all kinds of stuff that people that don't have money don't normally have access to anyway. So
correct. Grains and the like.
Yep. Okay, well,
We got a quick
question. Yeah, go ahead.
Rick Jones asked, do they allow volunteers under the age of 18?
Okay, do they allow volunteers under the age of 18? I have 3 little kids, so I just asked this a minute ago, but Arlan, what's the answer to that?
Good question, yes. If they volunteer with us here to pack grocery bags and boxes, we'll take kids 12 and up.
Okay.
When we have volunteers at our mobile food market, we ask that they be 16 and up because of safety precautions.
That makes sense.
So we certainly encourage people to go to our website, wedon'twaste.org, hit on the About tab and click down to volunteering and certainly register, because we can certainly use volunteers.
Volunteering would be great. How great for your young adults or older kids to see this and know that not everybody just has food in the fridge all the time, whatever they want. I think that's a great lesson, and they'd be helping you.
It's a huge lesson. In fact, within the last year, we've developed a couple of programs where we're doing outreach to schools and teaching young people about food insecurity and what they can do to not only help the general community, but certainly us in recovering the food. And like you said, there's 40% of the food in this country is wasted, and there's no reason for that, really.
Yeah.
So if we can shrink it, we're doing a heck of a job, because 23% of the methane gas that's released out of landfills is the result of food.
Yeah. So there's another whole benefit to this.
Tremendous benefit.
Okay, so you talked about volunteerism. People could come get involved. What are the other ways that they could help out?
Sure. The other ways they can help out is to go to that same website, wedon'twaste.org, and hit on the donate button.
Yep.
Because we don't charge to pick up the food from our food providers, nor do we charge the agencies that we deliver to. So we depend upon financial support from foundations, from corporations, and most importantly from individuals.
Yeah.
And any amount really helps us when you stop to think. This facility is 11,500 square feet. We need to pay the rent. We have insurance. I have 14 employees. They get paid. We have the 4 trucks. It all costs money.
Yeah.
And without the support of the community, we wouldn't be here today.
Okay, great. So volunteer time or donate money, I think this is one of those 100% problems. That was a term that I read about from Matthew Kelly. He's like, focus on the problems in the world that 100% of the people agree this is a problem. Instead of the divisive ones that we can battle over, it's like people just need to be able to eat. Everybody can get behind that.
This is not a political problem.
Yeah.
It cuts across all types
Exactly.
of people. We don't discriminate in any way. People can come to us through our mobile markets, through the agencies we support, and get nutritious food. The other thing people can do to help the major problem is, how do you prevent 40% of the waste? You can start by, when you shop, take what you need, use what you take. Unfortunately, people over commit and take more food, and they never use that food.
Yeah.
Great example of that is you decide you're going to have steak, you and your spouse or your kids. So you have 2 people you're going to cook steak for. You go to the store and you pick up a package of steak and it's got 3. You put 2 on the grill, The third one, you wrap and put it in the freezer. A couple of weeks later, you're going to have steak again. You forget about that steak in the freezer.
Yeah.
You repeat it.
Yeah.
Gets wasted.
Yep.
So take what you need, use what you take.
I'm as guilty as anybody on that stuff.
We all do it.
Bringing in the new groceries, and then I'm throwing out stuff that I never used anyway. Arlan, this was a pretty long video. We should let people go. Thank you for your time. I think it's a great organization, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you for taking the time, Joe. We
Sure.
really appreciate it. And
You're
thank
welcome.
you to the public for the support that they give us.
Thanks for doing it.